Hey, Kinsey, and welcome back to Remember What the Lord Has Done. Today, 3 more chapters in Judges 16, 17, and 18. Last time we looked at Sampson, and we saw his birth, and then we saw his marriage, and then we saw his vengeance on the Philistines. We're going to see more of his vengeance on the Philistines today, but not before Delilah gets to him. So we'll take a look at that, and then we'll also take a look at this guy named Micah. And as you look at this, you might be tempted to think that this is the same Micah that occurs later on in the Bible. We'll also see why it's not. But Micah's an interesting character, so we'll talk about him briefly. But again, Judges 16, 17, and 18 today. So, chapter 16. One day, Sampson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the 2 posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so that we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have not been dried, then I'll become as weak as any other man." Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the thongs as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You've made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then, with some men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Delilah then said to Samson, "Until now you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied." He replied, "If you weave these 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with a pin. Again she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and pulled up the pin and the loom with the fabric. Then she said to him, "How can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazarite set apart to God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines, "Come back once more. He has told me everything." So the rulers of the Philistines, having returned with silver in their hands, having put him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Then she called, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke from his sleep and thought, "I'll go out and as before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza, binding him with bronze shackles. They set him to grinding in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain." While they were in high spirits, they shouted, "Bring out Samson to entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean against them." Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, O sovereign Lord, remember me. O God, please strengthen me once more, and let me, with one blow, get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Then Samson reached toward the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He had led Israel 20 years. Chapter 17. Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver with me. I took it." Then his mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son." When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord for my son to make a carved image and a cast idol. I will give it back to you." So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith, who made them into the image of the idol, or the image in the idol. And they were put in Micah's house. Now, this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some idols, and installed one of his sons as his priest. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit. A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, who had been living within the clan of Judah, left the town in search of some other place to stay. On his way, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. Micah asked him, "Where are you from?" "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he said, "and I'm looking for a place to stay." Then Micah said to him, "Live with me and be my father and priest, and I'll give you 10 shekels of silver a year, your clothes and your food." So the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man was to him like one of his sons. Then Micah installed the Levite, and his young man became his priest and lived in his house. And Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." Chapter 18. In those days, Israel had no king, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking a place of their own where they might settle, because they had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. So the Danites sent 5 warriors from Zorah and Eshtaol to spy out the land and explore it. These men represented all their clans. They told them, "Go explore the land." The men entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. When they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here?" He told them what Micah had done for him and said, "He has hired me, and I am his priest." Then they said to him, "Please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful." The priest answered them, "Go in peace. Your journey has the Lord's approval." So the 5 men left and came to Laish, where they saw the people were living in safety like the Sidonians, unsuspecting and secure. And since their land lacked nothing, they were prosperous. Also, they lived a long way from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. When they returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers asked them, "How did you find things?" They answered, "Come on, let's attack them. We have seen that the land is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people and a spacious land that God has put into your hands, a land that lacks nothing whatsoever." Then 600 men from the clan of the Danites, armed for battle, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. On their way, they set up camp near Kiriath-Jearim in Judah. That is why the place west of Kiriath-Jearim is called Meneh and Dan to this day. From there, they went on to the hill country of Ephraim, and came to Micah's house. Then the 5 men who had spied out the land of Laish said to their brothers, "Do you know that one of those houses has an ephod, other household gods, a carved image, and a cast idol? Now you know what to do." So they turned in there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites, armed for battle, stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had spied out the land went inside and took to the carved image, the ephod, and the other household gods, and the cast idol, while the priest and the 600 armed men stood at the entrance to the gate. When these men went to Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, and the other household gods, and the cast idol, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They answered him, "Be quiet. Don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and priest. Isn't it better that you serve a tribe and clan in Israel as priest rather than just one man's household?" Then the priest was glad. He took the ephod and the other household gods and the carved image and went along with the people. Putting their little children, their livestock, and possessions in front of them, they turned away and left. When they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. As they shouted after them, the Danites said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you called out your men to fight?" He replied, "You took the gods that I had made, my priest, and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask, what's the matter with you?" The Danites answered, "Don't argue with us, or some hot-tempered men will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives." So the Danites went on their way, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back home. Then they took what Micah had made and his priest and went out on to Laish against a peaceful and unsuspecting people. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. The city was in a valley near Beth Rehob. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan after their forefather Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There, the Danites set up for themselves the idols, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land. They continued to use the idols that Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh. It's so sad when you see that. Whenever I read Judges, I think I get distracted in my own perception of right and wrong. So this guy Micah he hires someone and he has his own belongings, and these people come in and they stay at Micah's place. So he allows them to stay, these 5 men. They in turn go back to their army and they take his goods and they take his employee and they're gone. And so for me, there's a part of me, and this is infuriating, that looks at this story and is like, Micah was wronged. He was so wronged. It's so frustrating to see that this guy was bullied and taken advantage of. But I think we need to dial it back. We need to dial it back to actually what happened and what Micah's doing. Is he the protagonist? Is he the good guy here? Because it's really easy to frame the story as I just framed it. But there are 2 notes here. One on 17 verse 6. 17 verse 6 says, in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. This note says 4 times the final chapters of Judges mention that there was, quote, no king. Twice, Judges adds that, quote, everyone did as he saw fit. This editorial remark was probably made later after the monarchy had begun under Saul and David. A king unified the nation. Some problems of this period are evident in verse 5, idolatry and installation of a priest who did not come from the priestly family. The story that follows shows one group of Israelites raiding another, as though they were enemies, not relatives. There's also 18 verse 24. He replied, "You took the gods that I made and my priest and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask what's the matter with you?" This note here says it's a sad commentary. Micah's outraged cry offers a sad commentary on the state of Israel. Even though his stolen gods were obviously unable to protect themselves, let alone him, Micah knew no other refuge. Anarchy ruled, as did idolatry. So, yeah, he's not necessarily a victim, right? He's not doing what honors God. He's not doing something that is so good. It's not like God told him, "I will let you prosper greatly," and people came in and took God's prospering from him. No, they took his idols. He wasn't to be worshiping them anyway. And he installed someone as a priest, just some random guy. So what he's doing is not good. So he's not the victim. And yet there's this kind of moral quandary that we have. So it's not so black and white when we look at this. And I think that's where it's kind of difficult. It's hard to kind of grasp, is this someone who's virtuous, or is it someone who is not? Is it someone who's taking advantage of? Is it not? And I think that's how we should approach unbelievers. So many unbelievers, like Micah, are deceived. They're deceived by the enemy. So that doesn't mean we just go along with whatever they say, but we also recognize that Satan has powerful forces and principalities coming against them, convincing them that their own way is the best, or convincing them that Satan doesn't exist. So again, they're not virtuous in their own right. No one is. But there's something also that we should be praying for unbelievers and praying that they come to God. And I think that's where it's so easy to create this black and white that shouldn't exist. Speaking of the black and white, it was really funny. Your Oma was feeding you dinner today, and she said, and you were just finishing up, and you were starting to get in a right state. And she said, "Well, do you want more? Do you want more food?" And you're like, "No." And she's like, "Well, do you want forehead kisses?" It was the cutest thing. Do you want more? No. Violent no. Do you want forehead kisses? And you gave the sweetest, cutest little nod. And so you knew you definitely did not want more food. You could be convinced for forehead kisses. It was super cute. It was awesome. But things aren't always that black and white. But either way, we should definitely be praying for others. So let's do it. God, I thank you for Kinsey. God, I thank you so much for her cute little nods, and even for her nose, Lord. God, I pray that you give her a discerning spirit, that when she sees others that do not believe in you, or when she sees others struggling, God, that she pray for them, that she would come alongside them, God. Not merely that she would judge them and cast them off, Lord, but that she would have empathy, Lord, for what they're going through, God. But that empathy would prompt her to action, to point to you, God, as you are the only one that can save. God, even when things aren't so black and white, may she act within the guidance of your word. And in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, Kinsey, I love you. I appreciate you. And I will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.